Okay, so we're in business law, and we're now looking at the distinction criteria. We're looking at D1. So what's the first thing we do when we look at the question?
Understand what the question
Understand what
wants
the
from us,
question's saying. Because if you don't understand the question, there really is no point. You're not going to be able to answer the question if you don't understand it. So let's try and look at what the question says and break it down. So the question says, provide a coherent and critical evaluation of the legal system and law, with evidence drawn from a range of relevant examples to support your judgments. Okay, so first thing here is, what are the key words here?
Critical evaluation.
Good, critical evaluation, and we know that evaluation means to
Weighing up the
pros and cons, and critical evaluation is then what?
Give your opinion.
Give your opinion. Sum up, give your opinion. Weighing up the pros and cons, your critical opinion. Okay, so, but we have to look at two things. So we have to give our critical opinion of the pros and cons of the legal system and common law. So it's asking for two things. Don't think it's just one thing. It's asking for two things. Using what?
Examples.
Using relevant examples to support your judgment. Okay? So you can't just explain and give your opinions of critical evaluation of the legal system and common law. You must also support it with relevant examples. Okay? So now, is everyone clear on that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So the next thing, if we take critical evaluation of the legal system, now the legal system obviously includes criminal law and common law, doesn't it? Common law or criminal law and civil law. Yeah? But so we're just going to focus on the criminal law. So what do you think of the criminal legal system as it is? Is it good? What are some of the advantages, disadvantages of the criminal legal system? Using relevant examples.
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
So what are some of the disadvantages of the criminal legal system that we have?
You talked about the Steve Lawrence case.
Yes.
Where it was said, I've forgotten the name now. The police.
Yes.
And racial institution or something like that, where they've hidden.
So when we looked at the Stephen Lawrence case,
You paused it?
no.
Okay. No.
Did you think it was paused?
Oh, yeah.
So, ladies, so in the Stephen Lawrence case, a young black boy was murdered by, they presumed, 5 white boys. And they had detained various people, but no one was ever charged or convicted of Stephen Lawrence's murder. And during the investigation, lots of evidence was lost, and lots of procedures and policies and processes were not followed correctly. So, this case was investigated, and it was found that, there were lots of failings by the police due to many reasons. And one of the reasons were that the police inherently are institutional racist. Do you understand? They don't realise that they're actually acting and behaving in a racist manner. And that was something that they needed to actually try and invest more money to actually, with policies and procedures and understanding what was happening, to try and get over. But throughout time as well, we've had miscarriages of justice. Timothy Evans, a very famous case in 10 Relton Road. And, he came with his girlfriend down from north to London. And in those days, to have an abortion was illegal. And his girlfriend got pregnant, and he wanted to have an abortion. And the gentleman at Relton Road said that he could perform this abortion. Anyway, he ended up killing the baby and the mother, and he blamed the death of the baby and the mother on Timothy Evans. Yes.
They were married. Sorry.
They were married.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
The husband and wife. So they were married, but they still wanted an abortion, and they still wanted to get rid of it illegally, because having an abortion in those days were illegal. Thank you for that. So you know, he was blamed for it, and in those days, if you were found guilty of a murder, what was the penalty?
Death.
Death, to be hung by your neck until death. And he was hung, and he was killed. And later on, it was found out that when some tenants were peeling away and was staying at 10, is it Railton Road, they peeled some of the wallpaper and they found more dead bodies in there. And later, what was it? Who was the guy? Christie, who had moved out of 10 Railton Road. You know, he was finally convicted in 1953 and hung by the same hangman that had hung Timothy Evans. And Timothy Evans was innocent at the time. Can you imagine, you know, being killed for a crime that you didn't commit? And, you know, and there were other crimes like other miscarriages. Sally Clark was where 2 children had
42 years old,
died in cot death of natural causes, and when the second child died, the police arrested her and convicted her at the time. In, you know, forgot what year it was. So she got convicted, went to jail, and then appealed her conviction, which was upheld for the second time in 2003. But she had spent many years in jail by then, and she had been beaten and bullied by the nature of the people in there, thinking that she had done what she had done, and she hadn't. And crucial evidence was found. The crucial evidence was found that of her second son, it was found from a medical perspective that he had died of natural causes. So again, miscarriages of justice. And, you know, other things as well. But if we look at the population of crimes, look at how big the population is of crimes in terms of how many prisoners we have in our prisons. I mean, how many prisoners do we have per cell? You know, you hear it in the news all the time. You have so many prisoners per cell. Some prisons don't even let out, because they don't have enough security people and guards to let out the prisoners to actually have some exercise. And how many times have we heard in the newspapers that inmates have killed each other and so on and so forth because of the frustration and the anger that's felt within those prisons? You know, and so the prison population is overcrowded, and even if you were committed for a minor crime, you would go to prison for a minor crime, you would come out as a professional because you would have learned everything else from everyone else.
It's another school, second school.
Plus you'll be mingling with hardened criminals.
And plus you would be mingling with hardened criminals. So how good is the system? I mean, there are some people who are saying that the system should be changed and a new approach to classifying the system should be adopted. Classification in terms of a scale from minor things that can pose harm to members of the public to the red level to major things that could pose harm. And this reclassification, which, I mean, we haven't seen yet, but they're set to pilot this scheme in parts of the country, is supposed to reclassify the definition of different crimes and state whether or not those certain people should go to jail or not. And it's saying that this classification will hopefully reduce the prison population by 50 to 70%. You know, thus saving the taxpayer money, thus saving a lot of things here and there. But a reclassification, I don't know the ins and outs and these statistics and the science behind it. So if it's correct and they classify someone correctly, where they don't need to go to prison, then I think it's a good thing. But if they get it wrong, they have to be spot on in terms of getting this correct. Because if they let someone out who then goes on to cause a lot more harm to the public, that's not going to be good, is it? So there are, you know, but at the same time, the prison population is expanding. And also, are prisoners rehabilitated just because they've served time? Are they? Do you learn your lesson just because you've served time?
No.
No. And, you know, and people who have offended normally come out, can't find a job,
Yes.
and live in poverty. And what do?
They
They go back into crime and they reoffend. And so, and every time someone reoffends, and they go through the whole process of the police and getting detained into a cell, back into prison. And in prison, it costs an awful lot of money to put one person in prison and to keep them. and to keep them locked up, keep them fed, keep them monitored and everything else. So it's costing the taxpayer a lot of money. What are the good things about the system? The good things about the system is that, yeah, they do put away people who have committed crimes. If you take the Hatton Garden heist, where various people, drew a big hole into, a wall, and the wall must have been, twice as wide as my hands, as long as that wall behind you. See that wall behind you? They drilled a hole right in all the way to the bank, and then got into the safe deposit boxes and took all the drills. And why are you laughing? Are you laughing because you think it's something you might do? So they took all the safety deposit boxes, and they took all the money and the jewels and the bonds and whatever else was in there, diamonds and so on and so forth. But they got caught, with the police investigations and everything else. I don't know how they managed to get caught, but they got caught. So here is an example, and many other crimes throughout the judicial process that they do get right. So, on one hand, there are miscarriages of justice throughout history in terms of the English legal system, in terms of the Birmingham Six, in terms of all these other people being imprisoned falsely, and that happens. And on the other hand, and also the prison is so overcrowded, but then on the other hand, it is putting away people who have committed crimes and who may be a danger to society. So, what's your opinion on this? What's your critical evaluation? What do you think?
I think they get more right than they get wrong, so it's got to be a good thing.
Okay. Yes, so we're saying possibly that they get more right than they get wrong. That's a good thing, but I think we need to develop and we need to grow.
My opinion is before they didn't have so many resources
Yes.
to find out the truth and to see
Right.
everything. Now they invest a lot of money,
Yes.
and they have like example. Me, what I hear